If you think you've heard it all when it comes to evil plans, wait till you hear about the plot hatched by the religious leaders in today's Bible story. They concocted a scheme so tricky, so devious, they thought it would finally trap Jesus into a corner. But boy, were they in for a surprise. Picture this. It's a sunny day in ancient Israel, and people from all around are flocking to hear Jesus teach. But wait, something's brewing. A group of religious big shots, the Pharisees and Herodians, they're not fans of Jesus. They've been trying to catch him in a bad situation, hoping to find a way to get rid of him. Now, the Herodians were a bit different. They were buddies with the ruling powers, the Romans. Normally, the Jewish folks didn't mix much with the Romans. But these Herodians, oh, they were all about that power and those good old Roman ways. Well, the Pharisees were all about rules and keeping things strictly Jewish. You know, they had a thing about mixing with other folks and their customs. Now, despite their differences, both groups had one big thing in common. They hated Jesus and wanted him out of the picture. So they cooked up a plan, a real brainwave, or so they thought. Why not hit Jesus with a question about taxes? Back then, the Romans had a thing about collecting taxes. For the Jewish folks, paying taxes to the Romans was kind of like giving money to an occupying force. Many saw it as helping keep their nation under the thumb of the Romans, and they weren't too keen on it. Now here's where it gets tricky. If Jesus said paying taxes was okay, well, that could stir up trouble with the crowds. They might see him as a collaborator. And if he said taxes were a no-go, well, that could land him in hot water with the Roman authorities. So when they approached Jesus with their question about taxes, they thought they had him dead to rights. Let's hear it. They came up to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God truthfully. Tell us, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" But Jesus wasn't just some teacher. He was the Son of God. And he knew what was really going on. He knew their hearts, their evil intentions, so he decided to call their bluff. He asked them a simple question. "Why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for paying the tax." The religious leaders had an answer for everything, except for this. They were taken aback by his question, but quickly composed themselves and fished out a denarius. It was a Roman coin, plain as day. The image of Caesar Augustus was stamped on it, along with the words, "The Senate and People of Rome," in Latin. Jesus took the coin and asked, "Whose image and inscription is this?" They said, "Caesar's." With that, Jesus dropped a truth bomb. He told them, "Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." And with that, he sent them packing. Now let's be honest, their plan was pretty sneaky, preying on people's feelings about Roman rule. But Jesus, he saw right through it. He knew they weren't genuinely seeking wisdom. They wanted to trap him. They couldn't handle the idea that a carpenter's son from Nazareth was gaining popularity. It threatened their authority. You see, these religious leaders, they loved the spotlight. They craved attention and admiration. In their eyes, Jesus was stealing their thunder. In fact, the Pharisees and the Herodians couldn't stand that Jesus was attracting big crowds to hear him teach. The religious leaders had a system, a set of rules and traditions that dictated how things should be done. But Jesus came along and turned everything upside down. His teachings resonated with people. They found solace in his words, and it irked the religious leaders. People were listening to Jesus because he spoke with authority and compassion. It challenged the status quo. Imagine being in their shoes, clinging tightly to tradition, and seeing the very foundations of your authority crumbling before your eyes. The religious leaders felt threatened. It wasn't just about losing followers, it was about losing control. They had meticulously constructed their positions of authority. It was a carefully crafted edifice of rituals, laws, and social standing. But Jesus' growing influence was like a wrecking ball, shattering the fragile peace they had built. And let's not forget the Herodians. These guys played a dangerous game. aligning themselves with the oppressive Roman regime. They were willing to collaborate, to compromise their principles for personal gain. While the Pharisees clung to tradition, the Herodians clung to power. They saw the strength of the Roman Empire and decided to join forces instead of resisting. For them, it was about staying in the good graces of the Roman rulers, ensuring they wouldn't be on the wrong side of the taxman. But both groups had something in common. Neither the Pharisees nor the Herodians understood the essence of faith. They missed the bigger picture. Religion had become a game of rules and rituals for them, more concerned with appearances than substance. But Jesus, he called them out. He exposed their hypocrisy, showing the world that their devotion to rules had blinded them to genuine faith. Their attempt to trap Jesus was a desperate move, a last-ditch effort to silence him. By asking that loaded question about taxes, they thought they had him cornered. But Jesus, he turned their own expectations against them. He didn't shy away from the question. Instead, he used it as a teaching moment. And the crowd, they saw right through the religious leaders' game. They understood Jesus' answer. It wasn't just about taxes. It was about priorities, about knowing what truly mattered. It reminds us that true faith isn't about blind adherence to rules. It's about understanding the heart of the matter. And Jesus' master plan was unfolding. No matter the tricks or traps the religious leaders tried, Jesus remained steadfast. He continued to teach, to heal, and to reveal the truth. Their attempts to silence him only amplified his message. And the religious leaders' obsession with trapping Jesus revealed their own spiritual blindness. Their inability to accept Jesus' teachings exposed their need for repentance. In the grand narrative of Jesus' life, their actions served as a stark reminder of the consequences of rejecting God's truth. Their inability to see beyond the confines of their own traditions and expectations ultimately led them astray. This story teaches us some valuable lessons. First, it reminds us to be cautious of those who use religion to manipulate others. The Pharisees and Herodians, they exploited people's faith for their own benefit. They twisted religious sentiments to serve their selfish purposes, showing us the dark side of religious hypocrisy. Second, it calls us to be discerning in the face of tricky situations. When faced with challenging questions or situations, we must exercise wisdom and discernment, just as Jesus did, carefully considering the motives behind the questions and the potential consequences of our answers. Third, it encourages us to seek understanding over blind adherence to rules. The religious leaders missed the bigger picture. They failed to grasp the true meaning of faith and the importance of Jesus' teachings. It reminds us to go beyond rote religious practices and strive for a deeper understanding of spiritual truths. And finally, it emphasizes the futility of attempting to trap or silence those who walk closely with God. The religious leaders' attempts to trap Jesus backfired. They ended up exposing their own shortcomings and reinforcing Jesus' message. It assures us that those who follow God's path will ultimately triumph over those who oppose them. As we reflect on this story, let us be inspired by Jesus' wisdom and courage. Let us remain vigilant against those who misuse religion. Exercise discernment in challenging times. Seek understanding over blind obedience and trust in the ultimate victory of truth over falsehood. Well, friends, that's our story for today. I hope it blessed you. And remember, if you want to experience God's blessings instantly, there's a secret waiting for you. All you have to do is look into the video in my YouTube profile bio. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay connected and never miss out on new daily videos that bring you closer to Jesus.